ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Check this out, we got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and welcome to Monday, January 12th, a cold day on Cape Cod. Hopefully Scotty's a lot warmer in Tampa Bay. We like to call it Re-Entry Monday, where myself and Scott will recap Wildcard Weekend, and what a Wildcard Weekend it was. If you look at my timeline on Twitter, I went back to Thanksgiving. There were 3 games. I went back to Black Friday. There was 1 game, so we're up to 4. Christmas Day, there were 3. So right there, again, that's 7. Take the 2 on Saturday, that's 9. And take the first 2 on Sunday, that's 11. That's the Dogs 11-0 ATS in primetime games for the NFL. Pure entertainment, as some of my colleagues and friends like to say. And then, of course, the nightcap where, truthfully, in my eyes, the Chargers had every opportunity. That was exactly the style of game that they wanted to play. No excuses. Harbaugh obviously wasn't watching some of the prior games. Take the 3 points. Go up 3-0. No ego got in the way. I get why, because his defense was playing great. Hey, we'll pin him. We'll get a short field, and we'll do it all over again. But the point is, second half, Herbert again in the playoffs, inept. The injury started to show, and the Patriots shined, so they move on. We go Houston and Pittsburgh tonight. Currently, Houston -3 plus 100. That means the next one, they're dying to bring this to 2.5. I doubt it will. Under over 38. 21-17. That's what Vegas is telling me right now. So 20-17. The Steelers haven't lost on Monday night since 71 or 72. I think they've won 23 in a row or something like that. And of course, Scotty knows what my headliner is, and I've read a lot more. I've talked to a lot of people, and when I read what I read and what I talk about, and what I saw, makes me even more angrier. But after the dust settled, of course, I'm talking BREGMAN of the Cubs. But my point is, truthfully, the last 3 or 4 years, you're paying this guy that kind of money, and he's more of a manager than what he's going to do for production. Yeah, he would have been great in Boston for the first couple. I get all that, but I'll save the rant. First and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. Travis, Zach, Guy, myself, Amber Hawley, Carol Bucks, Matthew Allen, Drew, the list is endless. Come on down, download the app, head on over to X, follow WagerWire and the community. They're the best in the business. Trust me on that. And of course, AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Terry Smith has done wonders. Steaks, seafood chops, appetizers, wine. He's got it all. Head on over to AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. So without further ado, let's bring him in. Mr. Scotty Webb. What's up, champ?
Hey, man. Hopefully things are all right in Boston after the BREGMAN thing. And, well, whatever it is, what it is. I mean, baseball's baseball, and players go where players go, and, things happen the way they go. The only thing I want to say about that move is, I've listened to a lot on baseball and on MLB on the radio. I like to listen to JB. JB's really good, and how he analyzes things and does stuff. No, he's really good, but at the same time, he's not a sports bettor, and he has no idea who to bet on and how to bet and all that stuff. So don't take it that way. But as a general manager and and stuff about he's good. He's a great player, evaluator of talent, and all that stuff. But all I keep hearing from all these people on the radio and talking about is how the Cubs are now positioned themselves to be World Series champions and stuff like this. And I'm sitting there going, "Are you lost your damn mind? Like you lost your mind." They go out and they get Edwin Cabrera, who at best is not even a 2-WAR pitcher, and second, that he's not even going to be their number one guy, and they gave up their best prospect to get him, and now they signed BREGMAN. Okay, great, they signed BREGMAN, but all that does is theoretically replace the stuff they lose from Tucker. So they're not any better than they were last year theoretically, and they got more work to do as far as I'm concerned. If they really want to be like that kind of good, I did see someone say, if you really want to be good, you're going to have to go make a deal and get like Mackenzie Gore or, another a big pitcher. And I get that. That's what they need. They need that, they got all these soft tossers and Edwin Cabrera. That's what they got. And I sit there and I go, holy crap, these people have lost their mind about the Chicago Cubs team. So anyway, all that being said, I don't think it's a bad deal for the Cubs. The Cubs have to do something to replace Kyle Tucker because they're certainly not in on him anymore. So I don't know. We'll see what happens and see how it goes and see who does what from here. But slow down and put the brakes on this Cubs stuff because the Cubs have now put themselves in a position where they can compete with the Brewers. How about that?
For a Red Sox fan, here's you have to take yourself out of way back when we used to be top of the heap, competing with the Yankees, most money spent. This is before the Dodgers became this actual printing money Dodgers. We don't care. Hey, we'll bring you into our office. We'll show you the trophies, and then we'll start talking about deferred money, and then show you Showtime, show you the All-Star team, the pitching staff, L.A., Tinseltown, whatever you want to call it, beautiful weather. You can helicopter in and out. You can do whatever you want. And, oh, by the way, this is what we want to do for the deferred money. I think there's something in the air vents that gets you all warm and fuzzy. And you're like, just sign your life away. You don't care. You don't need the money now anyway. So we'll worry about that when it comes. But, back in the day when the Sox wanted someone, they just went and got him. They overpaid. Go way, way back to that shortstop when we needed his shortstop from the Braves, and his name's escaping me. We signed him for $36 million, 9 per, and he lasted 2 years. And I know you'll eventually remember the name. David Price, Chris Sale, Manny Ramirez. When we wanted someone, we just went out and got him, period, end discussion. And now we haven't been like that in a while. And now the game has changed. It's the nerds, it's the upstairs, it's the analytics. Now you got a robot of all robots with Breslow, who's his hands are tied. Here's what we got to work with. But the hard part for us, Scotty, is you signed BREGMAN last year. You overpaid for him $40 million. He had 2 more years of player options, so he could have stayed 2 more years, 40 per. You didn't tell Devers, so that was a shit show in the spring. And then he became a malcontent. And the beauty for the Red Sox is they find someone that wants him, Sam Fran. And the beauty was they took the contract. They didn't take. We didn't give them any money. They took on the 275. So we're off the books for 275. So the fans are supposed to believe, well, that 275, obviously 170, 175, whatever it's going to take, is going to go to Bregman. We got the Crochet extension, and that gives us some flexibility. And that's what we were led on to through this whole process. And their deal was 5 for 165, 10 million short of what the Cubs did. But the real fly in the ointment was they wouldn't give him a no trade clause. The Cubs give him a no trade clause. And now you're reading through the tea leaves. He really wasn't a part of the future. And I've talked to some colleagues. Insert Eugenia Suarez, 15 to 20 million per. There's your 49 homers right there. That allows you flexibility with Campbell. That allows you flexibility with Meyer. And I keep hearing this. Now I see pitching and bullpen arms. Well, there's the Freddie Peralta trade. That's what they love to do. That's trading. Let's add a real number 2, drop Sonny Gray to number 3. So now you got Crochet Peralta and then Sonny Gray. And then I'm hearing these little whispers. Back end arms, back end arms. There's a guy in San Diego that you know I love. His name is Mason Miller, and he's only getting like $4 million a year. How would you pry Mason Miller from the Padres? Very easily. You take on most of that Bogarts contract. They want that guy so far gone. Oh, where did he start his career? In Boston. Okay, so send him back. You pick up 50%, we pick up whatever the numbers are, but you got to add Mason Miller. And that's how I'm wired, Scott.
No, I hear you. Look, I don't know what's going to happen and how things are going to play out upcoming. But one thing that I think that, listening to JB talk and some of the stuff that I would be shocked on that isn't, people aren't talking about. The Yankees haven't done anything yet, but they're not going to sit there tight. They're not. So the Yankees are going to do something, and when they start doing stuff and bringing stuff in and doing different things, we'll see what they look like when they're all done, and then who's available and what's happening in different trades because they've been talking about Freddie Peralta for them forever. So I don't know how all this is going to play out and where it's all going to end and what teams are going to look like. So for me, when I evaluate these teams and what they do and how they do stuff, I just got to sit back and watch because the reality becomes if I get too far into different things, it makes too much sense sometimes, some of the stuff that happens, and then some of the stuff that doesn't happen, and then why somebody goes and does certain things I don't get. So, like to be honest, I don't know exactly what the Blue Jays are doing, picking up that guy from Japan to play third base. I mean, whatever. Hey, go play third base and go be good, but if you're not good, then you're not good, whatever. It is what it is. So anyway, I think I think I was surprised at what Kyle Tucker's market is now. Theoretically, it's 3 teams. It's Toronto, the New York Mets, and the LA Dodgers. Those are the 3 teams that are going to be in on Kyle Tucker. So, and then I sit there and I think, okay, well, if the Mets have lost quite a bit in terms of pop and power and guys that they relied on in the past, and they put this guy in place, and I don't know, does he replace that stuff, or is he I don't know. So I'm a big Kyle Tucker fan, but I don't think I'm a Kyle Tucker. He's gonna put the load on his shoulders and carry it to the promised land guy. So anyway, the point being is I'm not sure what the Mets are doing. The Mets are gonna have to do something. So if they go splash and they get Kyle Tucker, well, at least that might satisfy their fan base to a certain degree. Losing all the fan favorites that they have with Alonso and and all the other guys that have been around that team forever, and now they're gone. It's a weird dynamic, And, Alonso doesn't fit that, hey, Soto wants, 25% or 30% or whatever of these guys to be Dominican players, and he didn't fit that either. So I'm not sure. I don't know where it's all going to end up, how it's going to land. My opinion, like the Mets can do okay, but the Mets need pitchers. They don't, they need starting pitchers. And I know they got young, good guys coming, but they still got all these old guys in there. So, they're going to have to figure that out. And I don't know, Baltimore's not done. Baltimore still wants, a big starting pitcher. So, I don't know where it's all going to end up. It's going to be interesting to see how it all kind of comes down. Hey, profit margin. Good morning. And as of now, I really think, when you start to think about baseball, you've got some stuff brewing, some stuff happening. But what I really like is there's only a couple teams anymore when you talk about the Rockies and you talk about like the White Sox that really are so far gone that, those fans are sitting there going, well, shit, it's just another year. We're going to lose everything again. And then everybody else, you think about the Reds and you think about, the Pirates and, some of these teams, and that they're a little bit better than they have been. They're more competitive than where they have been. And I think that makes baseball better. Look, the Dodgers are the Dodgers. They're the cream of the crop. They're the best team in baseball. They got the best pitchers. They got the best bullpen. They got the best hitters. But they're also beatable. So anyway, I think a lot of this stuff's going to play out to where we kind of go and say, hey, I don't know what's going to go on with the Padres. The Padres are a team that's been out there for years, for the last few years anyway, been a big Dodger rival. Well, they lose this guy and they lose that guy, and now all of a sudden they're going to have to go fix their issues. So we'll see how it plays out, and there's still plenty of time. What is it? Today's the 12th. Right around Valentine's Day, pitchers and catchers. So we're not that far away. And then there's going to be a lot of early stuff. So WBC kicks in this year. So that means these guys are going to be playing very competitive, high level games at the middle of March. I think it starts the 17th of March. So as that kind of, it might even be a little bit sooner, but I think it's the 17th. So anyway, that's only going to run for like 2 weeks or whatever, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever that tournament is. But they're high leverage, high accountability kind of games compared to, regular spring training. Guys go sit on a paint can and watch the game and stuff, from the dugout. So I think that'll all be great. And then all of a sudden, you're back into the season, and we'll see what happens. But I'm all excited. Baseball's baseball. I thought football this weekend was extraordinarily goofy. I don't know how else other than to say it. It started with Carolina in the Rams game. I mean, the Rams had to come back down the field with a late drive to actually win that game against Carolina. It doesn't surprise me that it happened. But it kind of, you just got to remember that, we talked about this before with the Rams, or at least I have. I thought the Rams were one of the best teams in the football. But there's two things here. A, they're not necessarily a great road team, and they certainly aren't a good team when they're not on turf. And then second, their defense is not nearly as elite as it was. Their secondary, you can throw all over this team as long as you can protect your passer. So when you think about how that matches up to the Bears, and holy God, what a game that was, the Bears and the Packers. What do the Bears do? Well, the Bears don't do anything well. They just don't. But they got to wait until they're behind 21-3 to sort of get it in gear, and then throw the ball all over the place and hope this kid and as a quarterback can run around with a chicken with his head cut off and make plays. And can they do that against the Rams? Well, I don't think so, but at the same time, I say I don't think so. What's the weakness of the Rams? Defending the passes. So I think that might be a good over situation. Now I haven't looked at it, but you know what I'm saying. Like that in that game, that's twice that's happened to the Packers with that same exact team, and that was in my mind soap opera drama all the way through. It was like ridiculous of what was going on there, but I don't. There are coaches and players that have that step on your neck. I'm gonna make sure you're dead kind of teams. And then there's guys that be like, well, we tried and we did this and we did that and it just didn't work out, and then they came back and they beat us. That's not, look, you're ahead 21-3. You can't lose that game. So anyway, point being is I think there's something going on with that coach. I'm not saying he needs to be fired. That's not what I'm saying. He's a great coach, but there's something wrong with what's going on there that can't be the case. So I thought when it came to that game, to be honest, I was sort of sick to my stomach. I didn't bet that game at all. I mean, I wasn't on it in one way, shape, or form. I wasn't on the Rams game either, but I thought that was interesting. I thought that the Philadelphia Eagles were outcoached in the game that they played. Think about it from a perspective that the San Francisco 49ers lose. They have two weapons. They have a running back and a tight end. That's what they have. And the tight end, his foot fell off or whatever. Something happened to his Achilles, and he didn't even play. Right? He didn't even play. So now what happens? Their best player becomes Kyle Juszczyk, and they throw the ball to him, and they do different stuff. Well, that's the head coach doing different things to say, this is what I got, so this is what I'm going to use. And then when you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you've got guys that are all pros, superstars, going against guys that got off the trash heap. It's not that your first set of linebackers didn't play. Your second set of linebackers didn't play. If you got three linebackers and now you got six, well, those six guys are gone. They got 7, 8, 9 out there playing backup secondary pieces. You can't rush the passer without Bosa and stuff. The Eagles had plenty of time to throw the ball. They couldn't get their wide receivers open. They couldn't do the things that were necessary. Barkley ran the ball pretty well. Remember, in the first half, he had like 70 yards in the first half, and then they quit running the ball. Then they quit throwing the ball well. It was the most asinine thing that I saw that weekend was the ineptness of the Philadelphia Eagles. And then, last night, right, we watched, well, I don't know, said this too. Every team in the AFC was hoping Jacksonville would beat Buffalo because they you got to get Josh Allen out. Well, they didn't get it done. Josh Allen got it done, and holy God! And now they go play in Denver, and they're the favorites in Denver. So, and that doesn't surprise me. Think about this: no matter who wins tonight, you've got Pittsburgh or Houston in, Denver's in, and what's the other game? Whatever, it doesn't matter. All that's left are good defenses. Nobody has any offense, and except Buffalo. So Buffalo can score 30 points in any game against basically any team. So Buffalo's in a spot where they're the only offense. So we'll see what ends up happening and how it kind of plays out and where it kind of goes. But oh my God, Buffalo's kind of in a good spot here. Anyway, and then you had the game last night, and I heard what you said about the Chargers having the right game plan against the Patriots, but they just didn't do it. Look, I'll be honest. I mean, they had I think they had. I remember it kind of being right around 100 yards or something like that in the first half. Other than when they got ahead 16-3 when they were throwing the ball all over the place, trying to do stuff, and New England let them have a little bit. They had no offense. They had no running game. They moved the ball a little bit here and there, but they couldn't protect the passer. Their offensive line's all busted up. So I thought New England played a great game on defense. And really, New England should have scored more points. I mean, if you remember, they had a tip pass that was intercepted, but they were going in for a score, and then they got sacked and fumbled when they were going in to score. So I thought New England should have had more points in the game, and should have even dominated it further. But so then we have tonight, and I've got my opinions about tonight too. And obviously, I bet these games, and tonight I did bet. So we can get into that, but. Anyway, my review of the weekend is I know what you said about all the underdogs and all that stuff, and some of that can be true because when you're the home team, you get some value there, but I think at the same time, just think that like the Eagles, for God's sakes, played terrible. I think the Green Bay Packers were another team that was like, I don't know, we got them. We're just going to let them go out and do whatever they want to do, and they come back and they scored 35 million points. They scored. That game was after the third quarter. That was an under. That game was an under. That's of course I bet it that way. It was an under, and then they scored I think 28 to 30 points in the fourth quarter, and that was mostly Bears. The Packers did score in the fourth quarter, so it's unbelievable how the fourth quarter dynamics of a football game really change things because they score a lot of points in that fourth quarter.
The Comedy Central with Harbaugh waiting in the wings, I said out loud, if the Bills were to lose, the easiest thing I would do is I'd fire McDermott on the plane, and then I'd call Harbaugh up, and here's your contract, write it out what you want. And Harbaugh, Josh Allen, instant credibility. Harbaugh, a very good defensive coach as well. And now you're competing against Drake May for the next 5 to 10 years there. But I'm going to go back to Saturday. 25 points were scored by the Bears in that fourth quarter. Not brought up enough. Again, McManus, 2 missed field goals and that missed extra point. That missed extra point stopped them from needing to kick a field goal late for the eventual win. That's number one. Same thing happened in Philly. Elliott, who's had a rough year, he's been there forever. Missed extra point. That last drive, if he makes the extra point, that last drive would have been a field goal and they would have had to gone to OT. Now the rumbling, Sirianni gone. Bring back Harbaugh where he all started. He started as a coordinator in Philadelphia. Bring him back. So, again, LaFleur, they got Hafley in waiting. Hafley's going to get some interviews and stuff. But, again, fire LaFleur, bring in Harbaugh. So that was, part of the weekend drama, number one. Number two, again, the kicking game in Green Bay, which has been an issue all year. Where's Mason Crosby when you need him there? And then it bites the Eagles in the ass. You're correct. That Jacksonville-Buffalo game had a hard time grasping. Either team could win, we know that. But everyone fearing Superman. And he wins. And I said, if they win and they go to Denver, they're going to be favored. Sure enough, 1.5-point favorites. The Patriots, tooth fight, nail fight, hats off to them. They get the winner of Pittsburgh and Houston. They lost to the Steelers. I think it was week 3 at home. They had 5 turnovers. They were driving to win the game. I think they're rooting for the Steelers because you saw the pass rush from the Chargers. The Texans got a better one. The Texans have a better one. So, again, I think that the Patriots will be favored less than a field goal against the Texans and more than a field goal against the Steelers. Opening lines, I said Buffalo 1.5 at Denver. Rams 4.5 down to 4 in Chicago. The Kittle-less 49ers. Now, they've already played twice. Opening day in Seattle, 49ers win a rock fight there. The fight for number 1 in hosting, Seattle goes into San Fran, 1.5-point favorites. They win that one, hence the bye week. I was wrong here. I like and I said this to you on Friday, and I said it to anyone that wanted to listen to me. The Philadelphia San Francisco line is out of control. It opened at 3.5. It went to 4, 4.5. It was 6. That was false steam. The books were laughing all the way to the bank. The whole world was on Philly. Thanks for playing. Okay? I said they could have played the same trickery. No Kittle, no way. We're not getting ambushed by the Hawks. 7, now 7.5. So the mash unit called the 49ers, game number 3 now against Seattle. Vegas has already said, no mas, no way. You want to bet the Eagles, you're going to pay, the Seahawks, Scotty, you're going to pay a price.
Well, I think you got to remember that when the 49ers had a chance, right, because they controlled their own destiny, just like Seattle did, to be the number 1 seed. And that game that they played was in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And Seattle went there and dominated the game. I think they won that game. I don't know, what was it? They won by 20 some points. So the reality becomes is I don't mind it being 7. That doesn't bother me. I think that's a real number. My thoughts is that San Francisco beat a fraudulent Philadelphia team is kind of what I think happened, and they somehow did that. And I don't think they can somehow go beat the Seattle Seahawks in the defense that they have. I don't know how they're going to score any points against Seattle. What are they going to do? Run McCaffrey? Okay, well, Seattle will stop that. Are they going to try to pass? Well, they might get sacked every time. I don't know. I think Williams is going to play, right, because he was hurt the last time they played. So I understand the value of Williams, but at the same time, if you watch him play and you do different stuff, he's not the most dynamic player in the world. He's a great left tackle, but I think there's so many other flaws that this team has that they're going to have to scheme and fix and do all this stuff just to be competitive. And Brock Purdy, Brock Purdy threw 2 interceptions yesterday against the Eagles or whatever, just threw them right to those guys. So yes, he's a good quarterback and all the other stuff. But at the same time that he's all of that, he ain't got nobody to throw the ball to. I mean, I get it. He's got Jennings and some of these other guys, and I don't know who that other guy, number 5, whatever the hell his name was, for San Francisco yesterday, showed up out of nowhere and was like their best receiver. And I'm like, holy crap, who in the heck is this guy? Well, what's going on? Why can't you cover these players and do different things? And it's just all schematics. And the head coach, the offensive coordinator, Shanahan, did a super, super job of attacking that. Well, they've already played the Seattle team twice. They play them twice every year. Mike McDonald's a defensive-minded guy. I don't think that any of that stuff is going to play into what you're going to see this coming week. And just in my head, this is a dominant opportunity again for Seattle to be dominant at home. And as long as, Sam Darnold doesn't go out there and get sacked and fumble the ball 4 times and, throw 4 interceptions and turn the ball over 8 times, I think Seattle is going to dominate that game. Because they're going to be able to run the ball against those linebackers, and they're going to be able to throw the ball against those linebackers and throw, in routes and out routes and different things to the tight end. They're going to be able to just pick on them. So they don't have to throw the ball deep. And I think they're just going to be able to do all that stuff. To me, the more intriguing game is going to be the Rams and the Bears, because I think offensively the Rams can do a number on the Bears on defense, and I'm not sure what the Rams can do on defense. Pressure the quarterback, yes, but I don't know that they've shown so many flaws in covering wide receivers and doing different things. I think that leaves the Bears as being competitive in that game. And then, I'm not so sure that McVay can't do some stuff and do some different things that create so many different mismatches and different things. that the Rams are in good shape, and then you get to a point where you got Seattle and the Rams, and that's the way it should be to actually go to the Super Bowl. That would be good. And then theoretically, say Houston wins tonight. I'm just making this up, but just say Houston wins tonight. Houston then goes to New England. That's a tough matchup in a sense of both teams. New England's not the greatest defense in the world, but Houston doesn't have the greatest offense. And New England's been good on offense, and you're going to match up against the best defense. So that's a pretty good little spot there. And then if the winner of that game, and just say Buffalo just say Buffalo wins, then Buffalo's got to come in, and you got to beat Buffalo. And if you can do that, okay, well then maybe you deserve to be in the Super Bowl. But the reality becomes is unless Buffalo comes out of the AFC, the NFC is going to be a big time favorite against the AFC teams, and they're going to get in. I don't remember what they were talking about, but the playoff record for Josh Allen is something else. I mean, like, he doesn't lose these games. Most of them are at home, but it's going to be one of these things where he's got to go do it now in Denver. But when you think about what Jacksonville was able to do, they had an offense, and they had and here's the biggest thing that's left. Buffalo's biggest aspect on defense that they have a problem with is they can't stop the run. They can't. Now Jacksonville ran all over them, but they still didn't get enough on defense to stop Josh Allen. They beat the crap out of Josh Allen. They just beat the crap out of that kid, but they still didn't stop him. Denver, they can't run the ball, and then you're talking about Houston and New England. These are not big dynamic rushing football teams, and Pittsburgh for that matter. If you want to talk about them all, like none of them have the attack the weakness that Jacksonville had the advantage for. So I don't think any of those teams match up to what Buffalo is able to do. And, especially when you think about Buffalo being a weakness, it's just weak against the run. And then in the NFC, I still think Seahawks Rams is a coin flip. I think that's a coin flip game. So either one of those teams could win that game, and then they're in the Super Bowl. I don't know, against Buffalo maybe. I don't know. Maybe Buffalo goes to Denver, and Josh Allen gets hurt in the first quarter, and then Buffalo's out. That's what it would take. They got rid of Josh Allen, but he got beat the crap out of him. They busted up his finger on a helmet, and they broke his knee, and they just beat him up, whipped his head off a couple times, and I don't know, man. You still can't stop them. And they do a tush push, and they get 10 yards to the 1 yard line and stuff. And the damn referee called it a touchdown. I'm like, what game are you watching? And you're right there on the field, for God's sakes. Anyway, some funny stuff happened, and stuff on the weekend. To me, that was kind of funny. Josh Allen, I could see his little legs. His little legs were up here like this, and they had him up in the air, and then he hit the ground, and then he kind of ran some more. When that happened, that was kind of funny too.
Tonight's game again, Houston 3 minus 105 with a 38. I'm trying to pull something up here, multitasking here. Houston team total 20.5 juiced under minus 115. Pittsburgh 18.5 juiced under minus 128. This has got Vegas trying to tell me 20-17 Houston. I don't think the number dips to 2.5 there. Again, you got 71-72, 23 Monday night games in a row the Steelers have won. I assume that goes back to Chuck Noll, Bill Cowler, and now Mike Tomlin there. I don't believe in Aaron Rodgers. I will say this out loud right now at 10:13 on Monday. If the Texans win the turnover battle, they win the game. Period. End of discussion. They're just going to put so much pressure on the dink and dunk. We're watching Ben Roethlisberger 2.0 here. Rodgers can't throw a 20-yard completion without a hook and lateral right now, and he's going to have nothing but pressure on his face. Now, again, as we all say, Houston doesn't have a great offense, but go back 2 years ago when C.J. Stroud was a rookie, when he was cooking with Crisco with a healthy Nico Collins, and he had some other healthy wide receivers. He had a healthy running game. He had a healthy tight end. That offensive dynamics have changed. Woody Marks, Joe Mixon, banged up, yada, yada, yada. Nico Collins in a cloud of dust. They literally have the Iowa State wide receiving core from last year. Now all rookies over here. But I've said all along, the Texans were my dark horse, not counting Superman, the number 6 ranked guy, meaning the Bills here. And I do know this. If the Steelers win, the Pats are beating the Steelers next week. No questions asked. But if the Texans win, the Texans are going to cause a lot of problems. I'm not going to get off of it. I think the Texans win. I do. I just, if they turn the ball over 2 or 3 times and the Steelers don't turn it over, well, then it's a whole different ball game. But I'm still staying on my horse here. Texans win tonight. Your thoughts, Scott?
Well, I think this game comes down to a couple things, and I think the biggest narrative here, and I just say it this way. Well, I won't say the score yet, but as I think the biggest narrative here is you've got an elite defense. Like, this is not something that is, and everybody talks about, well, they're good, right? Well, elite means they're number 1 on defense EPA per play, extra points added per value per play. That means that every play that they run on defense, they are the team that provides their team, Houston, with the best advantage to win statistically every single play on defense. They're number 1 at that. Then they're number 3 at 17 points per game allowed, and they're top 5 in yards per play allowed. So when you think about that, you've got to be a pretty dynamic offense and be able to do several different things to attack them. Well, now this defense is top 5 at 3 and outs, and they limit explosive plays. Well, think about Pittsburgh. They're not an explosive offense. They're a marauding offense. You just said it. The quarterback can't throw the ball 20 yards. He might not be able to throw it 15 yards. So now you sit there and you go, well, what can they do? Well, think about their rushing attack. They don't have a big rushing attack. I don't know what they're going to be able to do against this defense. So you have a elite defense really against a declining quarterback, old school guy. And then it even shows right here, yards per attempt has dipped 5.7%, and he's turnover prone against high pressure defenses. Well, there is no more high pressure defense than the Houston Texans. And then you have that this is a classic old guard versus new era clash. Rodgers is still a wizard when clean pockets, but Houston's pass rush is top 10 pressure rate. It's going to make it uncomfortable all night. Stroud's not perfect, but he's not a bad quarterback. I would take Stroud over a lot of quarterbacks. That said, he just so what has to happen? He needs to avoid the mistakes. I think he can. I think he can avoid the mistakes. I think they can be put in positions to be successful. You talked about Nico Collins. I don't think people talk about his tight end weaponry well enough. He can do some stuff, and they've been running the ball halfway decent. Mark's guy has not been terrible at the running back spot. So the other thing here is both teams are slow-paced teams. Both teams going against the defenses they're going to face tonight. And Pittsburgh is not an elite defense, but it's a good defense. So I think I think what you end up with is ball control, lots of running. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy. So here's my, I think how this game plays out is I think Houston makes less mistakes. Pittsburgh has to really, really work to try to score. I think the game goes under the number, and I think as the game just plays out and as it goes through, I think you have a Houston cover. That's how I bet it. I think this is the number one total of the weekend. I think this is the best bet under 30. Well, I bet it under 39. I think it's 38 and a half, 38 now. Um, the AI in my computer and the program and everything comes back 20 to 16, 20 to 16 Houston. And I did bet Houston because I feel very comfortable with them, especially on defense. But I think this is the number one total on the board, and I think that Houston wins and covers. You said something about the team totals in Houston being 20 to 17 is the game. And I think that's probably reasonable to assume where you are. But think about last night's games and these models that come up with stuff. They're not going to predict a team to only score 3 points. They won't. The model's not going to do that. They're going to give them credit for being able to do certain other things and stuff like that. Well, if you had to think about where it's going to be, are they going to score more points than 20 to 16 or less points than 20 to 16? I think it could be one team scores 10, one team scores 17, something like that. So my mind just says this is under, and not only is it under. I think that Houston's defense is going to be a lot like what you saw from New England last night, in a sense that the constant consistency of the ability to pressure the quarterback, the ability to limit explosive plays, means that Pittsburgh has to be perfect. And as long as you don't have a fumbled punt or some stupid goofy stuff that puts Pittsburgh in a spot where they get the ball at the 10-yard line and only have to move the ball a little bit to score. I think that makes it really hard on them, and as it's really hard on them, that's enough that is the variance in the game that provides the margin of cover that goes to Houston.
Again, me and Scotty will be back. I don't know. We're going to talk about it after the show here. What he would.
I think Wednesday morning would be better than tomorrow.
Wednesday, I have some. We'll talk about it backstage. So, anyways, football game tonight. Free agency in baseball. A lot going on next weekend. The dust will settle. As we're waiting for the final pieces. What we do know, as Scotty said, and we both said at the start of the show, the winner of Houston and Pittsburgh travels to New England. We're just waiting for time slots, of course, for these games. Rams -4 at Chicago. Seattle -7.5 right now at home hosting the Niners. Buffalo -1.5 against the number one seed and the Denver Broncos there. And again, my thoughts initially, I think Patriots Texans will be. I'm just going to float it out there. I think the Pats open up 2.5. I don't think they open up 3 or 3.5. That's just my take there. And I think against the Steelers, it would be more in the 3.5 range. We'll see. Want to thank Profit Margin. I want to thank PB, Dr. Lance, Mr. Lucky, everyone watching and listening. I want to give a big shout out, of course, to the Wager Wire community. And we're only in day 12 of a 365-day marathon. Of course, I'm talking 2026 here. A lot working in the back ends here for myself and Scotty as he gets ready for WBC, of course. And then, of course, the start of baseball. Mr. Bregman, I hope you enjoy Chicago. There's bigger fish to fry. There's still some big names out there. We're waiting for the dust to settle. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at DC Sports Invest, the one and only Mr. Scotty Webb at Webby20MLB. Wish everyone a blessed day. Mr. Profit Margin ends the show with I also like Houston and the under in a teaser tonight. So Mr. Profit Margin, best of luck. Cash those tickets. Everyone else, go get a coffee and stay tuned.